prideful. It's just to what degree. And I think to your question of vulnerability, which is why I was almost like laughing, what a great question back to back. Did you have a support system and are you vulnerable? I've always struggled with being vulnerable. And why? It's because to me, and I know this what I'm about to say is not correct or true, but asking for help means I need help. And if I need help, I'm weak. That's
Sure.
the connection for me. I've always made it. And for me, whenever I feel as though I need help in something, I don't accept that whatever it is I need help with is hard. Instead, I default to, I need help because there's something wrong with me. This should be easier. So tying that back to that 19-year-old, struggling, not using God's gifts that he had given me, athleticism and whatnot, I think that I never even gave anyone that cared about me the chance to care about me because I was so good at hiding things. And also I was too prideful to even ask.
Welcome to the Hidden Summit podcast. My name is Kevin Valance, and I want you to know you have found your place where you can become better. But listening may not be enough. I do want you to understand that taking action on your life is what's going to actually help you change your life and start to go down the path where you can reach your peak and your full potential. We're going to talk on topics such as mindset, nutrition, movement, and everything in between. Sometimes we'll have guests, other times it'll just be me. But at the end of the day, I want you to understand my goal is to help you as a 30-plus-year-old prioritize health through holistic health and wellness so you can live the life that you are proud of. As always, this episode is sponsored by Ice Barrel. I've been using my Ice Barrel every day for a minimum of 3 minutes a day since 2020, and the benefits are endless. But a few of the benefits I want you to understand, it's not just physical. Sure, we'll reduce inflammation after difficult training sessions so we can recover better and have better performance in our training. But why I like the Ice Barrel is because instantly after getting out of the Ice Barrel, it improves my mood and mental health and the clarity of mind to go about the challenges that I face every single day. Another benefit I want you to understand is that it will help you increase your metabolism. And I don't just mean burning fat and building muscle. I mean, you'll have the energy you need to be the person that you want to be throughout the course of every day. You can use the code HSICE to save on your Ice Barrel, 300, 400, 500, or any of their accessories on the website. I love my Ice Barrel, and I know you're going to love it too. Hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I look forward to chatting with you soon.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's going on? How are you, dude?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Sorry I had to switch things up on you. I hate doing that to people, and I rarely do, but man, it's tough with little kiddos,
Oh, well, things happen. I'm flexible. Don't have to apologize to me. I mean, if we're so rigid where we couldn't adjust the schedule to have a good conversation, then that's not the life worth living. So here we are.
You're a good man. Thank you.
Hope all is okay at this point, though. Hope you're doing
Everything's
all right.
good. Yeah, everything's good. Just a typical day in the life of 3 young kids and a family you're trying to keep in order. So all good, man.
How old are your kids?
6, 4, and 16 months.
Okay.
So
there you go.
Yeah, man.
Got the whole range, and that'll just. I mean, I'm one of 4, so I get it. We're all 2 years apart, so.
You get it then.
Yeah, absolutely. As much as a child could, and not a parent. So.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, you'll be there. You'll be there, man. I know
yeah, dude.
Some serious stuff going on in your relationship, so
yeah,
you'll be there one day.
It's weird. It's like kind of Lacey and I are in the point where we have so much we want to do on our own that kids just aren't in the picture today, right? It's just like we want to travel more and run these businesses and like help people, and we're really good at being aunts and uncles. So,
yeah,
we love that role.
Wear that hat until you want a different hat, but enjoy that hat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Well, Jesse, I'm pumped that you are here. I'm going to butcher your last name. Hopefully I get it right. Is it Carrjat? Am I saying that right?
Dude, you nailed it. And you're one of the few that you read it as it looks. That's all it is. Carrjat. Yep.
I'm tough. It's tough with names. Like no one can say my name the right way when they read it. It's Kevin, but they say Kevin, or they change it to Calvin. They add an L. Kavan is the fancy way to say my name. But I'm glad I got it right. And I'm glad that you're here on the Hidden Summit podcast to have a good conversation. We don't really know each other too much. We met for a weekend and had a very short conversation, but I felt this awesome connection with the mission that you're on. And I'm looking forward to diving into that. You host a podcast as well, if I'm not mistaken, the Sober Strength podcast. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
You nailed it.
How
Sober
long,
Strength.
how long have you been doing that for?
Veterans Day 2023. So 11/11/2023 is our first episode, and we go weekly. So we're on episode 28 right
Amazing.
now.
You did it the smart way. You did it the smart way. When I started this podcast, I had the ambition to do that and fell off because it was just, it was something I added to my list instead of making it the priority. And then I made this a priority in the beginning of the year, and I was like, I'm going to do a podcast episode every day for 3 months. I did it for 3 months.
Did you?
Yeah. I was just like, I didn't have conversations. It was a lot of just solo.
Yeah.
But you learn a lot when you try and talk on meaningful topics that frequently. The actual recording was never the stressful part. It was more of I was doing the uploading and the post edit. And that became the challenge, because it went from like me being on my iPhone to me getting a camera to me using Descript to me like editing the Final Cut. And I was like, what am I doing? This is too much.
It blows up. Yeah.
Yeah.
It turns into quite a lot, quite fast.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Awesome. And then, forgive me if I want to learn today, right? Like when I get into conversations, like I don't want to be the architect here. I want to be the archaeologist, and I want to learn about you more and share this with the Hidden Summit audience. And I really want to lean into your podcast and what you discuss. I think it's a powerful name, and I'm looking to lean into that. And then Altum, right? That's the
Altum.
Altum. I knew I was going to mess up one name, Altum. But I'm excited to learn about that and how that started, the origin story. And, we touched on it a little bit in Colorado, but I'm curious to lean into those things. So what started first, the podcast or Altum?
So started at the same time.
Okay.
Altum is Latin. It means deep waters. I'm a religious person, and the word Altum is all throughout the Bible. We're not a religious company. It's not a religious podcast by any stretch, but the word deep, and I think this symbolism of deep waters, if I just say that and stop, I think that it could mean different things to different people, but I just think Altum, like what it means to me as far as the company and what we're trying to do is I think you and I both are in the transformation business, for lack of a word. We're trying to help people, and there's different types of ways to help people, but more importantly, I think there's different levels. If you're focusing on surface levels, you impact people by recommending fitness routines, a little bit deeper nutrition, advice, a little bit deeper, maybe emotional health, things like meditation and mindfulness. Point there is visually, the deeper you go, the more you're helping people. And we can get into my story as to why, but in my view, if I'm going to step into the world of helping people, I want to help them in the deepest possible way, in the deepest possible level, in the deepest waters, if you will. And that's where Altum comes from. And so that's helping in emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, if you have a spiritual side of you, but all the O's, as you might say. But Altum really means deep waters. We want to help people in the deepest way. And then for me, helping people battle through and come through successful on the other side of addiction, specifically because addiction has unfortunately ravaged men in my family, my nuclear, central family, and also had the prospects of ruining my life as well. So that's kind of the whole picture for you.
Yeah. And I think that's where we connect on this, energetic level where, when I speak with people, I love the one-on-one communication in person where you can feel the other person's energy. And while I don't know the depths of your story, there was the way you spoke to me and had eye contact and leaned into the conversation. I felt it because going through what I had gone through, 16, 17 years ago, in the depths of this addiction and drug use, alcohol, avoidance of looking inward, to your point, it's not even what I think when it comes to the depths of helping someone. It's not just the physical, the nutritional, the mental side of it, but how can one look inward to find out who it is they want to become and then avoid the distraction of the excuses that they've built through experience or their circumstances in the moment to move forward? And I felt that. I mean, that's a lot to
Mm,
feel in a 5-minute conversation, but you have that energy about you. And I know that's why you're helping people. And now you're leaning into
thank
this
you.
for the short amount of time that you have, with the passion that you have, because not everybody can do that. And
Thank you.
that's why I was excited to have this conversation and reach out to you when I was like,
Yeah.
hey, let's keep this going.
And for what it's worth, I felt it too. I had just, I'm pretty sure I had met you within 10 minutes of walking through the door of that environment, and just moseyed right up to you. I think you were getting out of a cold plunge, you know,
Hmm.
big jack guy. I think you have a tattoo that actually, 'cause I was in the Marine Corps, and you had a tattoo that, if I recall, I asked you, like, did you serve? Because it looked like it was a, patriotic type tattoo. But I felt it too, man. I felt a connection, and I appreciate you reaching out and initiating this, because I can tell that we can go pretty deep, pun intended. But I didn't know that about you. I'm gonna call you Kavan just to throw you. I
Yeah.
know it's not supposed to.
Let's make it a fancy podcast. Why not?
Yeah, but no, I didn't know that about you. So I know it's your show, but if you don't mind me asking, what addictions or addiction singular did you
Sure.
battle through?
Yeah. And I mean, man, addiction is a tough word. I mean, and I want to lean into that too. I started drinking a lot
Mm,
after I lost my way. My story goes, I went to school. I went to this music school and I had to commute to school and I wasn't prepared for it. I'm the oldest of all my brothers and sisters. And I ended up not going to class and hanging out with the wrong people and playing in my rock band and like drinking every single weeknight when we would practice. And then one day decided to start doing coke. And then that becomes the next
mm,
day and the next day and the next day. And I didn't have coke money, but somehow, you know, I have a way of talking with people and I made friendly with the drug dealer. So he would help me out in the
yeah.
sense of nothing, not holding anything over my head. And just became part of it became who I thought I was. Where, I mean, I blew up to 300 pounds um, between 2005 and 2008. I was failing out of school. I was sleeping on a futon in my parents' basement. Got to the point where, my mother woke me up when I had thrown up all over myself one night.
Mm,
And then the moment, one of the moments I remember where I had actually come to a realization that I was not going down a path that would serve me to live a life worth living was one day my dad woke up and he was a big man, 6'3", 300 pounds, big guy. And he stood over me with this pill case. And he's like, "What is this?" He's like, "I don't care what you do. If you want to smoke, if you want to drink, if you want to do coke, like do it. But like pills are not okay." And he was holding a pack of Klonopin that a friend
mm,
had given me to come down from being high so that I could go to sleep.
mm,
Because it got to the point where I would come home and I would sit outside on the stoop because I lived in the basement and there was this doorway outside in the driveway. And I would smoke cigarettes until I would get tired and the sun was coming up. And I had to wake up and like go to work by noon because I worked in a restaurant just to go out and do it all over again.
right,
And like
right.
that, it was my moment. And that led to me actually leaning on drinking more. And I got into an argument with my father on Thanksgiving in front of my whole entire family at my house to the point where he basically said, "Stop drinking." I went outside. I punched a hole in my own car window, scared the living daylights out of my entire family. And no one got mad at me. They just showed me love. So, which was very weird for me to feel like I had been broken and I was holding all this anger on the inside. My aunt comes over me and she's like, "You fucked up. We've all messed up before too, but we're doing okay because we chose to make a difference in our lives and move in a direction that was hard, but we saw what was going to be worthwhile."
Mm,
And that was the moment where I said, "Oh shit.
mm,
Like, I don't know
yeah,
what to do, but if I keep doing this, then it's not going to get better." And life
yeah,
happened and I started going to the gym again. I had a chance to transfer schools, actually went to class, got all A's because it wasn't that I wasn't smart. I just wasn't doing it. Went to
right.
school, transferred, played lacrosse, lost 40 pounds that first 3 months, kept losing weight, became captain of the team, graduated, found fitness, health, and then eventually started my own company to help people with the same thing. So
Right.
that's
And
how
here
I
you
got
are.
here.
Yeah, you felt it found it feels like in that story you got a taste of what life would feel like if you continued on that course or that path. And that taste was, you probably felt ashamed and you probably felt embarrassed. I'm putting words in your mouth, but
Sure.
I think you're two things. I think you're fortunate that your family met your decisions with grace. And then a testament to you, because we all have agency. It sounds like you made the decision to turn your life around, and I commend you for that. That's not easy.
Yeah, I
Not
mean,
easy.
it wasn't easy in the moment. I don't think it's easy for anybody. Everybody's dealt I believe that everybody's dealt a hand of cards, and however we play them, it's a winning hand if we learn to look at it with perspective to win it the right way.
Mhm.
I feel maybe for me, like, yes, I was embarrassed. Yes, I was ashamed. I felt guilty of how it affected the people around me. I wasn't happy with who I was. It was almost like, how long can I numb this feeling for instead of doing something to move in a positive direction? And with that in mind, it just felt like if I were to keep going down this path, I would run out of these chances where everything was still okay, right? It still felt
Yeah,
okay, and I didn't want to like walk that line. And it wasn't like, hey, like everything just changed cold turkey, right? There are ups and downs.
sure.
But it was, I'm fortunate enough to have the family, the love around me, the head of my shoulders to have a goal and find something else, right? I think, I mean, before we get too far deep into this side of the conversation, you know, I have that addictive personality, and you could, to combat this. We're here to chat about it, but leaned into like me getting a lot of tattoos and me find like being extreme in the fitness world, right? Like I felt like
Yeah,
there's just this go and yes, there are positive things that we can do with that same mindset and focus. But I've since grown wiser as I've gotten older and realized that I don't have to live in the extremes
yeah.
to find happiness.
The
I,
middle can be the healthiest place to live,
yeah,
not outside of the extremes.
very stoic of you.
Yes.
Moderation is key.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I mean, if you don't mind me asking, I'm curious as to, if you're open to sharing, like what allowed you to walk down this path to open up your doors through conversations and guidance through fitness specifically,
Mhm.
um, to help people with addiction.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I've gotten very comfortable. I used to be very uncomfortable sharing anything about me on a deeper level, but I've gotten very comfortable doing so since I stepped out into this realm that you and I find ourselves. So, I guess I'll start here. It's, we know, everyone knows. I think science backs that if a young man or woman is going to fall into a trap, some type of an addiction, there's a certain environment that's going to make that more likely, right? And we know that genetic predisposition is one. Are you exposed to substances at a young or young-ish age? And that could be even be alcohol in the home, right? That's another one. And then mental health issues. Those are the three, I'd say, kind of catalysts. And for me, all three, I checked all three of those boxes. So I grew up in an Irish Catholic home in New Jersey. Alcohol was the social staple. I mean, there was no socializing or anything without alcohol. So that was always there. I got diagnosed pretty young with OCD and panic disorder. So there's that box. And then, of course, when I started growing up, middle school, high school, I became completely preoccupied with the social aspect of school. Didn't care anything about academia, and partying, going out drinking every weekend started at eighth grade. Say that to say, there's your three, risk factors, and I fell right into it. However, I was different in that, for reasons I'm still discovering, I took it being partying, drinking, I took it to the extreme. So I can go into much detail as you like, but arrested 9 times by the time I was 19 years old, while being varsity quarterback, playing every sport you can imagine, being athletic, acing like standardized tests like SATs and things like that, but just going out and seeking oblivion with alcohol, blacking out, jumping off of second story balconies at parties, falling into train tracks in Manhattan on the way to concerts, driving drunk, self-destructive behavior. And I was always, to my detriment, I was always able to hide it. I was always able to show up, whether it was a football practice or a test or something like that. So people around me had no idea how dangerous a life that I was living. And then I think something that really, really kind of pushed me into the realm of just a deep kind of dark place as a teenager was my father, my biological father. My parents were divorced when I was young. My father was a Marine. That detail could be relevant later in the conversation, but he told me as a sophomore in high school that he had AIDS, and I had no idea. I mean, I knew my father did intravenous drugs. I knew that that was a lifestyle that at least at the time, I thought he used to live, but I had no idea that he was living actively with AIDS. And the reason he told me is because he started getting symptomatic and started getting very sick. And he knew that the end was near, which it was. So I think when you just kind of pull up and just look at my story on paper, it's like here you have this kid who's getting in trouble, prioritizing alcohol, mental illness, right, with panic disorder and whatnot. And then you throw on top of that losing your father at 19 because he did die, soon thereafter when I was 19 years old. At 19 years old, I just found myself just completely kind of off the rails, just not living a healthy life. So I wound up getting a DUI, ironically, I guess, enough on the way home from my father's funeral. And after I went to court and they actually took my license, it was in August. I was supposed to be thriving college student, but I'll never forget, I had too much pride to let someone come with me to court. I stood in front of the judge. They took my license. I was not in college. I had no license. I had no job. I'm a year out of high school, and I walked home in the Jersey Shore humidity by myself, kind of like my equivalent of a rock bottom. Like, where do I go from here? My father's gone. He was my true north in life. I had nothing, and I just decided to call the Marines, and I signed up for the Marine Corps myself. So that was I like to, when I think about my drinking, I think about it in two different seasons. The first season of drinking for me was that young kind of hurt kid who was hurting himself and he didn't know why. And that season kind of concluded with the climactic DUI, and then I joined the Marine Corps.
Got it. Wow. Powerful. Man, thank you for sharing that. One, two, we have another parallel, in that we both lost our fathers too early.
Mm.
And, I'm curious what thoughts were going through your head on that walk home. If you can remember, it seems like a pretty important pivotal moment to decide, were they limiting beliefs at that moment in time, or basing everything that you had done? Did you think ahead? Did you feel like that Marine Corps was the only direction that you could go to at that time? You sounding that you were very independent, right? Like you're like, I'm going to do something, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious, Jesse, what was going on in your head at that time?
Yeah, that's a very insightful question because no one's ever asked me that in that level of detail. So I can't describe what I was feeling as though there were, these conscious thoughts that were written down in paper, but I can tell you with great detail, like how I was feeling. Like I can try to describe how I was feeling, and I could just throw words out there, but they would be embarrassed, ashamed, desperate. There was an ambition to right the wrongs, but I think mostly because of the last conversations I had with my father before he passed, I felt like a disappointment to him. I was just kind of walking home like, how could this happen to me? Because up until that point, everyone saw a lot of promise in me. They didn't really know the depths of my own kind of self-destruction, but I felt exposed. I felt like, going through high school, you can kind of be protected by and insulated by this bubble of this facade of being a kid, right? And you kind of get off the hook a little bit. But not even a year out of high school, here I am with literally nothing. And there was no hiding from it. I couldn't manipulate or I couldn't talk my way to have someone think that I was doing better than I was. It just was what it was. You asked me, what are you up to, Jesse? Well, I don't have a license, I don't have a job, and I'm not in school. So I think that level of exposure motivated me to want to do something drastic and immediately because it was so uncomfortable and I felt so terrible about myself. So part of my reason for serving, yes, absolutely, there's patriotism. My father was a Marine, my stepfather was a Marine, my grandfather was a Marine, the other one was in the Army, just surrounded by men who served. It was always there. But also, I need to be candid and honest, part of it was because I knew that if I was successful, that it would give me some redemption and something to be proud of. And I knew when I just looked at the four major branches of the military, there is kind of an aura or even a mystique around the Marine Corps. People, and for good reason, right? It's the tip of the combat spear. People know that it's hard to do. And I was like, you know what? My life feels so shitty right now that if I can do this, that can be a huge move in the right direction for me to feel better about myself, genuinely. But also, I would project onto people that they see someone that they can actually be proud of, because at the time I was nothing but ashamed.
Sure. And that goal oriented mindset, like what I'm hearing is in that moment, you had these feelings come through, and those feelings come from what had happened, and that what the happenings become mood, temperament, behavior, beliefs. And then, that's how you're identifying yourself in that moment on that walk. If I
Yeah.
could paint a
Yeah.
picture,
Well said.
but that little bit of vision of based on the other parts of your life that you believed in, the patriotism, being able to be capable of doing those hard things, being the varsity starting quarterback, right? Acing the SATs, like you had it in you. So let me choose the hardest thing that I can think of to go prove to myself that this can be done. Is that,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. And to others, and
abs-
prove to others. Yeah.
absolutely.
No, you nailed it. Yep.
No, and I appreciate that. And similarly, parallel to me, when I at that rock bottom, I had an opportunity to go play lacrosse, like I said, and I went to the meeting. They basically said, "You're too dumb and you're too fat." So I said, I told them, I was like, "Just watch."
Mm.
So I went and got all A's, and then I lost 40 pounds, and then I became captain of that team. Now, not the same thing as going to be a Marine, but like having something to work towards
Yeah.
helped stay on a
Yeah.
path, something that I believed in, and proof of concept. And proof to myself, one, but you're right, like to everybody else that I cared about, not everybody else that I didn't know or didn't care about, but I wanted to personally walk across that graduation stage and have my parents see that, their son is going to be okay. And I did
Heck
that.
yeah.
And that was an awesome
Yeah.
moment. And then I think I told you both of my brothers served in the military,
Yeah, you did.
in the Navy. Yeah. So
Yeah.
they've gone through and set those big goals themselves too. So I completely respect that and appreciate and thank you for your service.
Of course.
Now starting a Veterans Day means a whole lot more. So
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm going to pivot for a second. One of the things I was thinking of when you were speaking is I'm curious to the support system that you had or didn't have in that moment, or in those moments of being a youth and going through everything that you were going through. Do you feel like you had the support system to share? And if you did, or if you didn't, is vulnerability something that you have a hard time allowing others to see? I like asking deep questions. So.
These are good questions. Very good questions as I get to know you here, man. Okay, so I was gonna riff and just think out loud. Did I have a support system? Yes, I did. But did I use it? No, I did not. And would they support me if I initiated? Yes, they would. But I think there was two things going on. If I had to pick two, it's one, I don't even know that I knew that what I was doing at the time was irregular. I mean, as I sit here in hindsight speaking about it, these are all things that I've reflected on over the course of, I'm 39 years old, right? So I've had time to think about this, and I'm in a completely different place in my life now. So I don't even think that I understood, even going in and out of courtroom and doing dangerous things and hurting myself and fighting and all these things. I honestly don't even know that I knew that I was hurting as much as I was. So how could I know to reach out to help, But then the other part of it was there's pride. We're all prideful. It's just to what degree. And I think to your question of vulnerability, which is why I was almost like laughing, what a great question back to back. Did you have a support system and are you vulnerable? I've always struggled with being vulnerable. And why? It's because to me, and I know this, what I'm about to say is not correct or true, but asking for help means I need help. And if I need help, I'm weak. That's
Sure.
the connection for me. I've always made it. And for me, whenever I feel as though I need help with something, I don't accept that whatever it is I need help with is hard. Instead, I default to, I need help because there's something wrong with me. This should be easier. So tying that back to that 19-year-old, struggling, not using God's gifts that he had given me, athleticism and whatnot, I think that I never even gave anyone that cared about me the chance to care about me, because I was so good at hiding things. And also I was too prideful to even ask.
Yeah. Do you have any siblings of your own?
I have one biological brother. Yeah.
Are you the oldest?
I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's curious of certain things. And then I like a lot of the social sciences. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Enneagram at all.
I am.
Are you an Enneagram 8?
I am. How'd you know that?
Wing 7?
Yeah. How'd you know that?
I'm pretty good with people. Well, I look at it like I'm an 8 wing 9 and
That's impressive.
Lacey's an 8 wing 7. So what I'm getting from you is this vulnerability being your greatest fear. I would imagine that, you're the adventurous side in you where there's nothing to worry about, that you can't, nothing can hurt you. Is that 7 wing in you that you found when you were young, in this, healthy or unhealthy state. And then being that you're doing what you're doing, wanting to help us call it the little guy, when we're in a place that's positivity, we like to bring out our inner 2, which is going to be to give more to other people and let us prove to them that they can win too by giving our all to that other person. And then in our, when we're in a place of, when we're hurting, we're not doing well, we shut down, we become really introverted, internal, thinking a lot of our thoughts and kind of processing it, over processing, but almost to the point of paralysis by analysis. And, you and I are very similar in that way. So I just figured I'd check that out.
Dude, well said. And you can send me a bill for therapy after this, because I just want to sit here and keep talking to you so I can learn more.
First session's free, so we'll
all right, cool.
No, I love it. No, and it's really cool to see and again, this is really our longest conversation ever. And I'm sure, I guarantee you will do this time and time again after this combo. But what I see, on your Instagram page is love, family, support. And I know social media, we want to share the best, but on the flip side, like I haven't listened to your podcast in depth, but we talk about very hard things. We get deep on those other sides, the reality of life, which, I can appreciate, very much so. And I want to know, like if we fast forward to today, right? And like your father, your husband, you're helping a community of men and women, maybe, I don't know. Okay. Awesome.
Whoever needs it.
So like, if you had to kind of pinpoint some ways to handle, like hindsight is 2020 to us, because we've gone through it. And I think we never stop going through it. We just become better at handling it. But what are some thoughts that you might share to your family when they're not listening, so they know, or the person who's just coming into listening to your podcast for the first time or joins Altum? Like, what is it that you have been through, have seen, to show that, like, I don't want to answer the question, but action, effort, support system is available if you allow it to be, moving forward to bring out the best version of yourself?
Yeah. Shoot. All right. Well, so I think for my answer for that to make sense and resonate, I think there's just a little more context about me to understand where my motivations and what I'm kind of like guiding people towards, how I'm coaching, like why I'm doing it that way. And I'll cut through it quickly, but right. So like, you would think that my story was over when it's like, okay, I kind of hit this rock bottom. I joined the Marines and then it was smooth sailing. Well, it wasn't. I mean, Marines gave me work ethic, discipline, something to be proud of, which to this day is something I'm proud of, that service. But what I never did, and this gets into your answer, Kavan, I like saying that, I'm sorry. It's is like, I never addressed the mental health part of those 3 catalysts that I gave early on, right? Because you can change your environment and your circumstances. Your genetics are what they are. You're stuck with them, right? I mean, it's just a foundation. But you have to address, and the first answer is you have to really look, and I'm not trying to keep throwing puns around here, but inward, deeply at yourself. It could be something small, like every day. Why do I lose my temper? Why do I feel so impatient with this type of person? If you just pause and just examine any emotion that you have, there's something underneath it, and it's either healthy or unhealthy, right? So you have to start to address the deeper, like, mental health part of things. And for me, even when I got back from the Marines and I went to Rutgers University in Central Jersey, if you just looked at like my career on a piece of paper up to and through last year when I quit my corporate executive job, like it had that like hockey puck kind of, graph that you want to see, just promotions and raises and changing jobs, promotions and raises. And I would even say if you looked at my life kind of on paper, it's like, oh, he met a girl. They got engaged. She's beautiful and lovely and 10 times better than him. And then they had the first beautiful kid and then their second and the third. Everything looked great, right? But early on, I still had the same kind of like mental health things going on. I had anger, I had resentment, I had anger at myself, I had shame. And that was causing me to continue to drink. Period. End of story. And what wind up happening with me and what really was the catalyst for me to quit abruptly, mind you, a very lucrative healthcare executive job, key stakeholder in a medical group, like we don't even have to go into it, but to crazily walk away from lots and lots of money, prestige, titles, all that stuff, to just quit was because I was still not well mentally and emotionally. I was still good at hiding it. I was using alcohol, which unfortunately is a very effective tool to turn off your mind or to alter your state, which because you've drank. You said you switched from substances to alcohol. You found the usefulness of it in that moment. So all of that to say, right? Like the second season of my drinking wasn't like thrill seeking. It wasn't subconsciously just abusing alcohol because it just felt right at the moment. It was intentionally picking up alcohol to change my mind because it still wasn't addressed. How to cope with stress, how to not connect my identity and my worth to what I'm doing, just to feel valuable and to have worth internally on my own without validating myself in the world around me with my career. So literally, and I'm sorry, all that to say, the advice, the first thing, the first step or the first advice that I would give anyone, assuming they sat across from me and just said, Jesse, despite my best efforts, despite this, that, and the other thing, I'm just not content. I'm just not happy. Addiction can be part of that reason for not feeling content or happy. But if they're sitting across just searching to move in a direction of health and happiness and contentment, you have to do the work to understand what's happening. What have you experienced? Is there trauma? Do you have mental health issues that you could use some professional support, medication, what have you? But I think you have to start with like an audit of again, all the O's, emotional, mental, spiritual. And then from there, surround yourself with people and start to move in a direction of not just healing, but growth and development, learning tools, surrounding yourself with people who are on a similar mission. But the biggest, longest answer you've ever heard on this podcast, simply to say, I think it starts looking inward before you move outward in some particular direction.
I couldn't agree more. It's perfectly said. And I think the context is necessary, right? Alcohol is the only substance that is readily available all the time, and the one that is put on a pedestal for most, if not all, social gatherings in general, social settings. I'm similar to you. I mean, I grew up on Long Island, so Irish Catholic family as well. So you're saying that like my short temperament when I was younger wasn't genetics. Like I had to figure that out myself. Yelling at the dinner table wasn't the Italian coming out of me. So with that, I mean, you're right. And I think it goes beyond substance abuse, like relationship abuse, careers as well. How many times have you had a conversation with somebody that jumps from relationship to relationship, and before looking inward to find out who they are and who they want to be and what their visions, values, and lifestyle are, before going to find someone who's exactly like the last person that they were with, or a job that was exactly like the last job that they were in, and they don't find happiness, but they never pause. Because I'll throw a pun in here too. When in doubt, zoom out. Something I say all the time. If you zoom out on your life and gain a 30,000 foot view on the situation, ask yourself, am I continuing down the same path, just with a different narrative, or is this a different path that serves me? That's something like that helped me a lot through, because I mean, like I said, it never ends. It's always a part of who you are, but the more that you can be present in that moment, you can zoom out a little bit more to gain a perspective and find clarity on the direction that you want to go. And the other thing I'll add to that, what I'm hearing is through the process, you found patience. I think patience is number one, to look inward. If you can pause in life and have patience and with a situation that you're in, and not just take action based off of the habits that you had formed. Because you said it as, I'm going to mess up exactly how you said it, but how I heard it was, we're drinking to escape, right?
Yeah.
Again, being vulnerable doesn't necessarily mean with other people. It means with ourselves. It might be
Mhm.
the hardest to look in the mirror and say that you are a beautiful, amazing, strong individual who has a loving family and you're really happy. That is so hard to say.
Mm.
But if we can do that and find patience in those moments to see where we are and don't judge ourselves based on the occurrences that had happened and our circumstances, like I said earlier, we can find gratitude. And that's the next step for me. So what are we grateful for? You're here, you're alive, you do have a family, all of, your legs work, your feet work, you're breathing, you're talking, you have food on the table, right? There's so much to be thankful for. And then
Mhm.
giving yourself grace is quite the challenge, isn't it?
It
To
sure
realize
is.
that,
Yeah.
hey, like this isn't going to define me, and I can move forward by being, having patience, practicing gratitude, because that's a superpower, and giving myself grace for what has happened to take a step in a direction of growth, if
Mm.
if we can choose that future version of ourselves. So, I mean, what
Yeah.
you said comes through loud and clear, dude. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it hits me
And
hard.
back at you, and I'll respond to that. I heard gratitude there. I also heard a lot of words that I think are important, and we can unpack each one, but we won't. But like clarity, gratitude, grace has been in this conversation. I think gratitude and grace for yourself and for others, gratitude about what you have, and grateful for the people around you, I think are two potent weapons in the battle against mental health, abuse, addiction, all those things. And I have a fun question for you. I'm just sitting here thinking about it. I think it might be fun to riff for a second, but it's like, do you think gratitude is an input or an output? Like, do you think gratitude is a result of a journey or a step that you can intentionally initiate to help you eventually find and live in a state of gratitude? That's a fun one to think through, isn't it?
I think it's both. Right.
Yeah.
I do think it's both. It's a part of, to reflect and be grateful, and then to take action and have gratitude to move forward. I think,
Mm.
gratitude allows us to recognize where we are. So if we're grateful for what was and we're grateful for what could be based on where we are, we can use it in both directions,
Yeah.
instead of it just being one or the other. I don't want to make it in black and white, but I do think it's a flexible superpower, as I call it, um,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
huge. Um,
No, I agree. I
so,
agree.
so fitness, right, as a tool, something
Mhm.
that Altum focuses on. I'd love to know your mission and vision with that, because same thing with me, helping people mind, body, lifestyle, mindset, nutrition, and movement. I think they're all encompassing. If one is
Yes.
not in the core of, a priority in your life, I believe that an individual could be lacking and not living to their fullest, or as we say at Hidden Summit, not on the true path to reach your peak. So,
Mhm.
fitness, it helped me quite literally with the challenges, the mental challenges, the physical challenges of training regularly when I was in a bad place, to now bringing that to men and women who are above 30 years old, who are looking to prioritize health but not let it like overtake their lives. I'm curious as to how that works with Altum as one of your tools.
Yeah, so I think I'll start with this. When people hear the word fitness, I think it's long and unfortunately only been associated with physical fitness. I think to the benefit of the general public and population, I think fitness is starting to mean more as more and more really, really smart, passionate people jump into the fitness space. And I think it's becoming more about the whole picture, the whole person, the deeper level, right? But emotional and physical fitness. So with Ultimate Fitness, we are not, and we're not just about physical fitness, workout routines, programs. What are you eating? What nutritional lifestyle? It's so much more. So it does encapsulate and include mindfulness and meditation and lots of information around mental health and emotional fitness. So kind of like start there. But I think any company that's helping people needs to have a goal as to what they're, shepherding people to. And for us, the podcast is called Sober Strength. And I know that when people hear that, they think it's about being sober. So what is being sober? You can look up the definition. There's definition of it. But for most people, that definition means absent substances, right? And actually, for a lot of people, they specifically tie it to alcohol. But sober is just a word. And I'm sorry for the diatribe here to get to your answer of what fitness means for it. But what sober strength means for me, and what I want it to mean for other people, is how do you live a life fully connected to your authentic self? Because any substance is just pushing you further and further away from who you are consciously. And if you abuse a substance, it's rewiring your brain so that you're just further and further away. I heard a great analogy from one of the guests on my show that says, look at like your connection to who you are truly as a Wi-Fi signal. How do you get 5 bars? What does it look like to live a life where you are fully connected to your authentic self all the time? The more you introduce alcohol, other substances, look, even caffeine changes your state, your emotional mental state. That to say, my goal with Sober Strength is just to help people get to a place where they have 5 Wi-Fi bars. They're connected to who they are as a person. They know who they are. They give themselves grace and gratitude. How does physical fitness help with that? It's a tool. It's one of many levers to pull. And to be very candid with you, I lead with fitness sometimes because I know that it's approachable and it's a hook to get people curious. But really the purpose is, let's bring you into our kind of community, or even just our profile page if you follow us, and just give knowledge and wisdom and information. Yes, how to get more fit, whether that's programming and nutrition, but also, are you thinking about your habits? Are you thinking about your routines, your mindfulness practice? And then once they say, oh, this is something that could be adding value to my life, the hope is that they step into community, which is a free community that we have, where they can just absorb the information and the knowledge and the resources, and hopefully recognize that their current lifestyle in some way, shape, or form is moving them away from who they truly are. It's not serving them well. And then they decide to jump into, say, like a 30-day alcohol cleanse or a 14-day like mindfulness practice. But all that to say, fitness is just one lever of many that we all should be constantly pulling to make sure that we are living an authentic life. And that's what it means to be sober, in my mind, is as close to your authentic self as you can.
Oh, I love it. And I think, fitness is all encompassing. I'll call it, I think wellness is a better terminology these days.
Amen.
Because you need all of it. And you're right. I think fitness is way more approachable than talking about nutrition. I mean, it's still really challenging for me to work with nutrition clients on nutrition. And they're telling me the things that they want to eat and don't eat, right? That's just those habits, or those walls are tougher to break down. Fitness is an easy gateway. There's so many different pathways to see success. And then the other side of what's becoming more apparent these days is recovery. You said we met when I got out of a 40-degree ice bath. And I think you asked me, you had never been in an ice bath at that point, right?
No, I did it a couple minutes after you did. You inspired me.
Yeah. One of the things, and how'd you feel after you got out of the ice barrel?
I felt great. I didn't feel so good in there the first time, but when I got out, I felt a sense of accomplishment and focus, actually.
Yeah. And saying that, similar to someone working out for the first time in a long time. You probably don't feel awesome the first day, but after, when you're done, you're like, oh, I did something hard. When I used to coach CrossFit classes, I told them, I want this to be the hardest part of your day, because if you can get through this class and look back and learn something, the rest of the challenges that you face in life, which you will be a lot much easier to handle. And, meditation, the first time I tried meditation, I fell asleep. I was like, this is dumb. And then the next time I couldn't focus my thoughts. But I listened to this podcast on Psychology Unplugged, and the psychiatrist said, the magic happens between the sessions when it comes to therapy. Try taking a nice bath, a workout, meditation. The magic happens between the sessions because you realize that you can do hard things and you are capable of getting past these difficult moments. And I truly believe that parallels and pushes directly to handling those tough thoughts, like the addictive thoughts, the habits that we've created to see changed. And I love that what you're doing is all encompassing, because the truth is that with a community of like-minded individuals is really tough to stop. and it's a
It
powerful
is.
place to be. So it's awesome
Sure
to
is.
hear that you got it. I don't want to say all figured out, but I think it sounds like you're moving in the right direction with everybody, and it's exciting
Certainly
to
trying.
follow along with.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
trying, man.
Have
We're
you
trying.
gotten in the ice bath since then?
I've done cold showers. I've done cold showers. I think I'm kind of, for whatever reason, just slow rolling that one, but
It's
I
okay.
know a lot of the smartest and most I don't know, insightful people, including yourself, that I know are doing it. So I think it's inevitable.
Yeah, let me say, it's a lot easier in a social setting to do with
Yeah.
a bunch of people, especially the sauna into the ice. I had the pleasure of, hanging out with Wyatt last week in Ohio, and meeting his crew, and we sauna and ice at the end of the day. And, we were working and we had a lot going on, and there's just something about that I call them zone 2 meetings. Like, you're sweating, your heart rate's a little high, it's uncomfortable, but you're having these really productive conversations. And that might be a way to, get something going. Cause we were in Colorado, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's a lot of people out there, where
Yeah.
you can get that community going.
I was
Uh,
supposed to go down to Eric's house last weekend, and there was some thunderstorms and some traffic, but
it's tough.
I knew it was going to be contrast therapy and steak. So
Hey, you're talking my language. I'd be there in a heartbeat if I didn't have to take a 4-hour flight.
yeah, buddy.
Awesome, dude. Well, hey, I don't want to end this, but I think that we circle back and we have a deeper conversation and keep it going. I love where we're at with this and everything you're doing with Altum and the podcast.
Thank you.
Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, so Sober Strength Podcast, that's our handle. That would be the number one place. And then from there, I mean, you can find, just like anyone else, there's a link tree back to our website with different resources, mostly focused on helping people take that leap into cutting back alcohol. That's kind of the low-hanging fruit culturally. But yeah, Sober Strength Podcast, no dots or underscores, anything like that.
Amazing. And do you guys have anything coming up, community events or webinars or things so that anyone should know about? Because I mean, I help people, but I'm all about like hybrid crossbreeding in the sense of like, my people are going to want to do your thing and I'm going to want to, they're going to want to join something that we do in the future. So what do you got going on?
Yeah. No, I love that. Thank you for asking. So one of the links on our Instagram account is actually to a free community, and that's not just some kind of like offer where you get in there, you get sold. It's 100% free, and we have webinars every single week that are basically hosted by an organization called Smart Recovery. It's just a science-based program that helps people, kind of think through how to step away from alcohol. So every single week we have that meeting in our community. It's called the Altum Fitness Community, AF, if you will, if you remember it, alcohol-free Altum Fitness. But then also every single week, we have more kind of fitness focused presentations and speakers and things like that, where you can just kind of pop in and just ask questions and get information. So between the actual focus alcohol courses and then the fitness ones, we're trying to make sure we're kind of covering all the ground between Altum Fitness. So
awesome. I love it. Super
yeah, man.
Cool. Well, Jesse, I appreciate you taking almost an hour out of your day to have this conversation. One of the better podcast conversations I've ever had. So I appreciate your time and your energy here. And I look forward to keeping this conversation going. We'll do it again sometime. Cool.
Thank you, brother. Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You got it, dude.